Afternoon guys, it's Mike here with Powers Carvings and Crafts. I'm coming at you today with another sharpening tip. Today's sharpening tip number 5. So today's sharpening tip is about regular maintenance on your knife. Something that I like to call refreshing the apex. Some people call it honing, maintenance, touch-ups, whatever you want to call it. Refreshing the apex is just what I call it. So Spyderco Paramilitary 2, I've used this thing hard the past 2 days. If you haven't watched my Spyderco Paramilitary 2 review, go check that out. And then I talk about how great of a hard use knife this is. Hard use for me isn't prying. Obviously I wouldn't pry with the tip on this knife. But I've been using it hard. I've cut drywall with it. I've been cutting in sand and dirt and around rocks. So it's pretty dinged up. Not to the point to where it's, not usable, but definitely it's lost its edge. There's parts on the knife, if you watch the last sharpening tip, where it's just not pulling fingernail off as like I want it to. So today's tip is telling you to sharpen often. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by sharpen often? I mean hone your knife, maintain your knife. It keeps you from having to pull out your more coarse stones to keep the edge on that knife. Keeps you from having to grind away a ton of material. If you don't maintain your knife often, then you're going to have to pull out your coarse stones and grind the hell out of it in order to get a burr back on it, and then flop that burr to the other side, and you're going to waste a lot of material you don't need to. So today I'm going to show you the process that I go through to refresh my apex and maintain my knife. So again, if you watched the last video, I go through the 5 stages of sharpening. Coarse, medium, fine, honed, strop. Whenever I refresh the apex, I mostly hit the last 2, hone and strop, but sometimes I'll hit the fine if it needs it a little bit. So that's what I go through when refreshing my apex. Again, my fine and my honing step are done with my DMT fine stone, and obviously my stropping is done with a leather strop with compound. Sorry if I'm sweaty. I got off work a little bit ago, got a good workout in, and changed into some nice clothes, and now I'm shooting this video for you guys because I love you and I want to make sure that you guys don't ruin your knives. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and color the edge with a Sharpie. I don't necessarily need to. I sharpen this knife so much, pretty much know where that angle is going to be on it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Now I use this knife for work, so I'm not really too concerned about keeping the Sharpie just on the edge bevel because it is a black blade, so I'll just use some rubbing alcohol to get the rest off. So this one, it's kind of beyond just the honing phase, so I am going to hit it on my fine phase, which again, if you watch the last video, that's whenever I take my knife, I set my angle, and I use my back and forth strokes. Don't get a dirty mind on me now. That's taken all the color off of that. Like I said, I've used this knife, or I've sharpened this knife and used it so much. I know that factory bevel very well on Spyderco Paramilitary 2s. And this knife is S30V, so I do recommend using diamonds on it if you have S30V. Alright, all that marker's gone off, and I think I did about 5 or 6. Didn't really count because I was talking. So I'm going to flip to the other side. But like I said, I do recommend using diamond on higher vanadium steels. Okay, I need to raise my edge a little bit on that one. I wish I would have shown you guys how this knife was cutting beforehand so I could give you a before and after, but you'll have to take my word for it that I did not start with a sharp knife. I wouldn't lie to you guys. But yeah, like I said, this is S30V, which is, it's a very forgiving steel, and on diamonds, it's not that difficult to sharpen. So I do have to spend a little bit more time on this side though, because it looks like over the past couple sharpenings, I haven't used the marker, and I kind of gave it a little bit of micro bevel. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of extra time on this side, but I will talk to you guys while I do it. S30V is a nice steel. It's very forgiving. And it also holds the edge pretty well. Like I said, this thing, yesterday I was cutting drywall with it, and today I was cutting in sand and gravel, and it held up nicely. It definitely wasn't shaving hair off my arm anymore, and it definitely wasn't that great at removing fingernail anymore, but It could definitely still cut through packages and cardboard. Let's see. Just down towards here a little bit, so we're going to work that side a little bit. Now, I'm kind of a hypocrite in where I told you guys to count how many strokes you do and do even numbers on each side, and I haven't been counting, but I'll just kind of go out on a limb here and say I've probably done about 20 on this side. Almost, it's just down here, right at the end. Let me know if that sound hurts your teeth, because it drives my wife crazy. Now, one tip I want to give you guys in this one is something that not a lot of people talk about, and that's the sound of sharpening. Being able to tell that you're hitting the apex by the sound. So, real quick, I'm going to see if you guys can hear this. So I'm going to go too shallow. Come on, focus over here, baby. Come on. Yeah. I'm going to go too shallow. That's too shallow. Probably just remove some of the black paint. Oh well. So that's too shallow. And now I'm going to raise it up to where it's hitting that bevel. Sounds a lot smoother, doesn't it? Again, that's too shallow. And that's hitting the bevel. I just screwed it up because I removed paint, and now I'm going to have to remember whenever I sharpen this that there's extra paint removed towards the shoulder of the edge. So this side should be pretty much good now. Yeah, whatever. Go back to this side, and I'll just even out my bevels now. As you can see, I'm raising my elbow whenever I get towards that tip to help follow that curve. And I'm not using a whole lot of pressure on this, guys. I am weight of the blade and then basically the weight of my hand on it. Okay. That's the fine done. I can feel that burr on that side. And I did say not to raise a burr in the beginning of this, but again, I'm a hypocrite. Just don't remove a whole ton of material off your knife. Saves the life of the knife. Now we're going to go to the honing, which again, last video I talked about that. And I'm just going to do very light single stroke passes per side. Oh yeah, that's already a ton better. A ton better. Let's see. Oh yeah. Removing a whole lot of fingernail. Removing a whole lot of fingernail. Time to strop. Now, for this video, I won't spend as much time stropping as I normally would. I go in between wanting to strop with compound and wanting to strop on bare leather. It's just kind of how I'm feeling that week or those weeks, you know. How I psych myself out, you know. Oh, bare leather, you know, it's feeling a lot more aggressive, or no, I think the aggressiveness is staying with this. Another problem with stropping. Oh wow, sorry, you guys weren't even able to see that. Let me turn this down just a little bit. There we go. I'm having to hold this up here so you guys can see too. But I kind of strop here anyway. Sometimes I'll strop a little lower, but up like man boob level is where I normally sharpen. But, oh, what was I saying? Oh, another problem with stropping is over-stropping. Now, with stropping, the leather gives. So the leather will actually conform around the edge of your strop. So here's the strop, here's your edge. The leather will actually kind of form around it like that. And it can slightly convex that edge, and it can give it less bite. Bite is what we look for in a knife, unless it's a axe or a carving knife. That bite is what helps you cut everyday materials, because the teeth or the edge of a knife has little micro serrations on it. So overstropping can smooth out those serrations too much, and while you still have a nice apex and you can still slice through stuff very easily, it doesn't really constitute itself for a very good sawing motion. So I don't overstrop. Okay. Oh yeah, that's feeling awesome. Let's see if we can get a little bit of, I don't make a habit of shaving with my knife. I don't really grow hair anyway, but let's see if we can get a little bit of hair shaving action. Can you guys see that? Not really. It shaves hair. One more test I like to do. People will plow through paper. It's all about those thin strips. A little hang up there, a little hang up there. Might need to touch it on the stone a little bit more. I hate living in an apartment. A little bit of hang-ups. And then you can also plunge your knife tip in there and run it through there like that. So, that, guys, is how I refresh the apex on my knife. Just a little touch-up if it needs it. You don't have to go grinding away every time you sharpen your knife, especially if you keep on top of the maintenance. I'll refresh the apex 2 to 3 times a week on a knife. And most of the time it's just hone and strop. This time, like I said, I was really hard on the past couple days, and I wasn't maintaining it the way I should. So I did have to go to my fine technique instead of just honing and stropping. But I appreciate you guys catching me on this video, and I will see you on the next sharpening tips. Thanks.